So I've been shooting with the Canon 80D now for a full week. Everything that I'm about to tell you is going to be based on hands-on testing, results that I've gotten, things that I've noticed and seen. It's going to be very useful to answer the question, is the 80D worth an upgrade? Many of you are 70D owners. Many of you are considering purchasing the 70D or the 80D. So this video, first we're going to start with the good news. I'm going to tell you what is definitely better in the 80D. Then we're going to talk about what's similar, and then I'll make some recommendations. So first thing, right off the bat, the dynamic range in the 80D is vastly improved. I'm measuring about 2/3 of a stop in the shadows alone. So this is great news for Canon shooters. That alone is worth about $100 to $150 worth of value for me. Second thing is the center focusing square on the 80D is in a different galaxy. It is really amazing, very impressive. The 70D, typically it kind of gives up at around 0 exposure values. I had no problem at all focusing with the 80D down to -2 EV, so that's a big deal. Third thing that I've noticed is that the dual pixel AF in live view is also vastly improved. It's smoother, it's not as jerky, it tracks objects much better than the 70D. In fact, I tried to trick it many times, and you can trick it, it just fights harder to retain that focusing lock. Buffer depth on the 80D is significantly better. The file sizes are bigger, again, so the resolution's 24 megapixels versus 20. In the JPEG realm, the 80D will kind of start to slow down after about 250 shots, whereas with the 70D, you can just shoot several hundreds of shots. So just something to keep in mind. Many other bells and whistles that we're seeing on the 80D. We've got a headphone jack, we have a built-in intervalometer, the resolution, as I mentioned, there's lots of other little things that add value. And so when we're looking at the manufacturing suggested retail price, $1,000 versus $1,200, I would definitely say more value in the 80D. So many of you won't know, but you can get a refurbished or a used Canon 70D for about $750 if you look around, and you're going to have to make that determination is if it's worth $400 or $450 more than a used 70D. Now, let's come back to some of the reasons why they're very similar. First of all, the ISO performance is very comparable for their equivalent resolutions. At 24 megapixels, you're going to see about the same ISO performance at higher ISOs as you would see in the 70D at 20 megapixels. Very, very similar. The second thing is in regards to the optical focusing system. So as you look through the viewfinder, the 80D has 45 cross-type focusing squares versus 19 cross-type focusing squares in the 70D. The interesting thing about this is in the testing that I've done, they perform about the same, between 71 and 73% accuracy on similarly type moving subjects. So I went out and spent a lot of time on this, is so that even though there are more focusing squares, and it covers kind of more of a square shape instead of a diamond shape, the 80D's accuracy is pretty much the same. I personally don't like having many focusing squares to go through because I move my focusing square around a lot. And so there are some advantages to having fewer focusing squares. If you want a sports shooting camera with a Canon mount, DSLR, I do think the 7D Mark II is going to be a better shooting experience, 10 frames per second, far more coverage. So another point I have to make is the 70D had a problem with the center focusing square at very wide apertures. I'll post a link in the description that talks about this. I had to return my Canon 70D to get a new one, and it was fixed in a different one. But if you get either one of these cameras, the first thing you should do is take a picture of a ruler at a very wide aperture and see if the focal plane is landing where you are aiming with your focusing square. If it's not, if it's off, by a ½ inch or an inch, I would return it. And I know there's some people who would disagree with me. That's fine. My opinion is if you're spending $1,000 on a camera, it better work right out of the box. So you can do micro adjustment for the focus. I'm not a believer of that for a brand new camera. Out of the box, it should work. And if it doesn't, you should return it. Now, I've done some tests on the 80D, and the jury is still out. I'm getting some inconsistent results where the precision may not be exact, and with different lenses, and I'll come back and I'll try it again, and now it's working. But there are some things about it that, at least the camera body that I have, it may not be precise. And what I mean when I say that is it's not completely accurate in terms of where that square is landing. Again, the jury's out. I can't reproduce this consistently, so I'm just going to have to hold off and say, test that center focusing square for either body if you get it. But the one thing that was probably the most disappointing for me about the 80D was its moire performance for video. I have a great shirt that tells me so much about a camera within 10 seconds of using it. It's a splotchy artifact that we see in certain patterns. That's going to turn off a lot of videographers simply because they don't want moire. And there are other cameras out there that have a lot less. So something to keep in mind if you're a videographer. Neither camera shoots 4K. This is starting to limit some of the people who might want to shoot with the 80D over the 70D or for video work. So in conclusion, which type of photographer would I recommend the 80D to over the 70D if budget is not really an issue? I think people who own Canon cameras, you're invested into the lenses and you're looking for a nice upgrade. Maybe it's been 3 or 4 or 5 years. It would be a really nice upgrade. Just know that you're not getting the video features that you would get in other competing cameras. I think video vloggers would love the 80D because both cameras have this monitor we can flip out and you can see yourself. You can focus on the touchscreen. It's really nice, very convenient. In terms of upgrading from the 70D, I can't really make that call, but I hope I've outlined what you're getting for that extra money. But before you guys run out and buy an 80D or a 70D, I have an epic shootout coming of the 80D going head-to-head against the Sony a6300. It's a mirrorless APS-C sized camera. And I would really highly recommend watching that video before making a decision. It should be coming out really soon, probably within the next couple days. I'm just waiting on a new lens. So in any event, I hope that answers a lot of the questions you guys have about the Canon 80D as it compares to the Canon 70D. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you found this video helpful, you might be interested in my crash course videos on the Canon 70D or the Canon 80D. I'll teach you the basics and show you how to take great pictures like a pro in no time. You can order it from the following link.